So World Labyrinth Day is as much a celebration as it is sacred activism. And we're going to be hearing about this sacred activism from all of our panel tonight. What I'd like to do real quick is just introduce our panel to you and have them just say a few words about themselves. So first off, I would like to go ahead and introduce Beth Dayer, and she's from Arizona, correct, Beth? Am I right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Beth.
Sunny Arizona today. So my name is Beth, and I live in Fountain Hills, Arizona. I am the labyrinth enthusiast. That's what we call ourselves before we become true facilitators for the Fountain United Methodist Church's Labyrinth. And I have been actively involved in that for about 8 years, but in the last 3 have gotten more involved with Labyrinth Society. And I'm really enjoying my time with this group, having attended a lot of the workshops and doing more here in Fountain Hills to spread the news about our labyrinth. I've walked labyrinths in all the states that I travel to and really get a lot out of it, and love introducing the labyrinth to people who have never walked the labyrinth before. So powerful and really exciting. So I'm very happy to be here with all of you.
Thank you, Beth. Beth is also what we call TLS Regional Rep Liaison. And she works within our team to stay in contact with our over 90 regional reps that we have globally. And if anyone here tonight's interested in that, please contact me. I would love to talk to you about it. So Kate Bull, she's coming from California. She's an extraordinary woman, mover and a shaker. Kate, tell us more about yourself.
Thank you, Carmel. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Katie Bull. I live in Encino, California, which is in Los Angeles. And I'm the regional rep for Los Angeles, which is way too big of an area if anybody else in Los Angeles wants to join on. And yesterday, I just finished my advanced Veritas facilitator training. So I'm now that. So I've been walking Labyrinth. My mother did, she's passed now, when I was a child, and my sister as a facilitator. It kind of runs in the family. So I've been doing it, honestly, 30 years, 40 years, somewhere in there. And it kind of died off for a while. I just kept it to myself. But in the last couple of years, at least in Los Angeles, I did, not when I lived in other cities. And now I've been going public with my love of labyrinth. So thank you. Look forward to tonight.
Thank you, Katie. Now, Christiana Britton, she is not new to TLS and she's not new to Labyrinth. She is just an extraordinary person, did a beautiful presentation at our earlier session. Christine, tell us more about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I was on the board of the Labyrinth Society for many years, communication VP and director of communications, nominating chair, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm now just an energy keeper. I'm now an energy keeper and a regional rep for the area where I live now, Western North Carolina. I am really happy to be here. It was a wonderful session earlier today. We created a local committee here in the area called Blue Ridge Labyrinth Committee. And we did a great job last year supporting World Labyrinth Day, as well as the gathering that took place in our area last fall, the TLS gathering. And I've been on a lot of different committees, also in Portland, Oregon, where there's a huge labyrinth community, and I learned a lot there, especially from Kay Kanevi, who just passed this past year, how to organize people, how to organize communities. And so, yeah, I'm so thrilled to be here today and to share all this with you all. So thank you.
Thank you, Christiana, for sharing your experience. Next, we have Frank Fain. He is truly my brother. Frank is doing some extraordinary work with young people in college settings. Frank, please let us know a little bit more about your work.
Thank you, Carmel. It's a pleasure to be with you. I need to do sort of an apology. I was supposed to be here at noon with you all, but I was in the flying the friendly skies of United of Delta coming back to Orlando from a week of some workshops and consultation at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And just the hunger on that campus, which I think is the 8th largest state university in the country, 68,000 students spread over 5 campuses in the area. And we just did a series of workshops for faculty, staff, and students. And they are very, very hungry to find ways to put the Labyrinth into more areas than I can describe tonight, but both from a personal and a campus-wide, both in terms of curriculum, student affairs, interfaith work, classroom, you name it. And we're developing some rather cutting edge and some unique ways to present the Labyrinth to a younger generation. And I'll say a little bit more about that. My presentation does draw on what we did at Rutgers this last week. So, and I've been working in higher education now about 7 or 8 years, I think. I have taught college. I built a legacy Labyrinth with my partner in crime, Katrina Jenkins, who presented at this same workshop last year when we talked more about DEI and inclusion and equity and diversity. And she's now the assistant dean for faith and spirituality initiatives. And we're doing some wonderful woman, and we're really pioneering some things in the college world. And so I'll be sharing more with you when I make my presentation in just a few moments. But it's good to be with you. I see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of people I don't know. And also, just a kind of a quick commercial, I am the vice president for outreach education this afternoon at noon. Tim Tenclay, who was our membership chair, who's now our education chair. And I'm so delighted to have an education chair to do some things with us. And I'm sure Tim shared a little bit, and he was just such a neat person to work with this last week.
Exactly.
So that's my spiel, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you, Frank. And it's a dynamic duo up there at Rutgers. And he did say Rutgers, one of the largest universities here in the East Coast. I think we need a little hand clap for that next generation coming through. Thank you for this pioneering work. I appreciate it. So I want to just give a little shout out to our one and only Susie Leeper, who is behind the scenes doing our chat box tonight. She is our new membership chairperson, a regional rep liaison, and her cohort in crime tonight behind the scenes is no other than Scott Hensley. Again, truly a brother, works hard behind the scenes. Anytime he shows up, good things happen. So thank you so much, you Zoom control people. We can't do it without you. So I guess our next step, Scott, is to go ahead and pull up a little slideshow that I want to present to you tonight. And it's really about tips on how to organize. Go ahead and tips on how to prepare for World Labyrinth Day. I want to thank, first of all, Robin Dilly, who could not be here with us tonight because she's traveling the world with her partner, but she was the one who sent us a lot of these preliminary slides. This is work that she's doing in the field with larger events and chain events and what have you. And we wanted to present it to you today. I will let you know that if you go back to that slide again, please go back to the other slide. I will let you know that this slide deck is on the worldlabyrinthday.org website. But I really have to say this little quote down here at the bottom: nothing has ever been accomplished in any walk of life without enthusiasm, without motivation, and without perseverance. That's Jim Villano. And I want to just capitalize without perseverance, because when the enthusiasm is gone and the motivation is low, it's the perseverance that gets you to the end. So just stick with that P. It's a good one. So go ahead to the next slide, Scott. Getting started, and we can't emphasize, you start slow, you move on slowly, you rise higher, and then you take fire. And this is how all of these larger events have started, just by small things first. So in doing that, you start to, get your feet wet and you learn from your mistakes. So start small, get organized, create detailed notes, write things down, keep calendars, have an idea file, build a team, and don't try to do too much on your own. Be flexible because things don't always go according to plan. But most of all, what we'd like to say is in organizing any type of event is to have fun. Go ahead, Scott. So a few ways to avoid some pitfalls is managing your expectations. So don't expect everything to go perfectly. Make sure that your expectations are realistic, and make sure that you are flexible no matter what your plan might be. There's going to be unexpected challenges. Learn to do some problem solving. Learn how to get around that. I would say, ask spirit to inspire you and use that intuition. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If you don't ask, no one can say yes to you. And there's many people that are willing to say yes to sacred moments and sacred events. And make sure that you do learn from your mistakes. It's okay to flub up, but just, practicing and, learning from your mistakes is how you scale your events. So the last thing, that we're wanting to tell you is promoting and advertising and reaching out to new resources is really key, on top of being flexible and learning from your mistakes. So go ahead. One of the things that we wanted to talk about was organizing your team. So when you have the privilege of pulling together your own team, you want to consider personalities, making sure that you guys can work together as a team. And that's okay to do. You want to consider each other's strengths and weaknesses. Earlier, we were talking about our teams, each of us have our own kryptonite, but it seems like the next person on the team has the antidote to that kryptonite. And we're that's the key to having a strong team, to know your weaknesses and work with them. We're also suggesting that you have a couple of assistants on these larger event walks. You might want to have a photographer, and you might want to have someone to handle your music. And it's really important to have someone on the team who's focused on your PR and on your communications. Go ahead, Scott. So the day of the walk, you have to consider the space, the weather. You have to plan what you're going to say. So you have to plan your introduction, the body of your presentation, and of course how you're going to end the walk. So are you going to be holding space? Are you going to be choosing sacred objects? Are you going to build an altar together? Are you going to have object lessons? So you have to prepare for that. Do you have to have 100 bottles of bubbles to blow? Are you going to have musical instruments for people to pick up and play? So all of these things, come in advance as you're planning the day. And, as you're closing the walk, will you have journaling? Will you have an art project? Will you have a reading, a poem? What are you going to say to invite them to the next event? So you want to organize and know what you're doing and saying. Have your agenda for the day of your walk. Go ahead. A few other things to consider is, your dedicated team, communicating often. Decide what types of communication tools you're going to use, whether it's a Google workshop, whether you're going to be texting, whether you're going to be using phone. Will you do some snail mail? What kind of communication are you going to utilize? You want to consider, are you going to have refreshments? Is there enough parking? Do you have a facility that is welcoming to people who might be in wheelchairs, or even who might be a little sight impaired? We're also asking you to go ahead and debrief after each walk that you have, taking notes. I would say debrief even in between, taking notes for next year, and taking lots of photos and just seeing how they can be used and reused and repurposed, into other types of promotional work. Go ahead, Scott. This is a little picture of our Dr. Robin Dilley, who could not be here tonight, but she does a bang-up job with promoting. As you can see, she had a newspaper article. She encourages us to think out of the box and out of your comfort zone, and to just pick up the phone, to just go ahead and ask that TV station, that radio station, that connection that you have at the newspaper, and to see if they're interested in covering World Labyrinth Day for you. I would query your team to see, well, who knows who working within the communication field, to see if they can help us with our newsletters, with social media, with our email list. So are you going to be using Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok? Do you have a neighborhood next door or meetup that you could be using as well? Do you have good old-fashioned church bulletin boards and bulletin boards in grocery stores that you can pin up flyers? So you want to organize your team around your promotional plan. I would say that is so important, to have a little light calendar with all your deadlines and due dates on it as well. Next slide. So the team came up with these 3 little P's that we want to encourage you with. So be proactive. Don't wait for problems to arise. Take steps to prevent them. Be pliable. Don't always expect things to go perfectly. Just know that everything that is supposed to happen will happen. And be positive in everything that you do. And I'm just going to add that last one, be persistent. So there you have it, folks. A special thanks to Robin Dilley, who couldn't be with us tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and cue up our Frank Fain, who's going to be doing a presentation on planning for diversity. So go ahead, Frank. It's all up to you.
Okay, there we go. Well, I'm here, and it's a pleasure to be with you. And Carmel, Robin must have been reading my mind, because I say some of the same things Robin does, but in a slightly different way. What I want to share with you tonight is, as we plan these events, we're inviting people to a labyrinth journey, a place to discover our shared human story. On this particular slide I have in front of you, that is a picture taken from the entrance of the Rollins College Labyrinth in Winter Park, Florida, that I helped build few years ago. And, I always love that particular picture because it reminds me that we're on a journey. And this is what's called the St. Paul pattern, that has that little ceremonial spot in the middle, right above the entrance. We put flowers there, candles there. People leave all kinds of stuff there. And the center is, and you can see where, at the top of the slide, you can see where the center is. But when we think about the labyrinth journey as a place to discover our shared story, our shared individual and collective stories, it's that place to do that. We're walking in our individual stories, and we're walking in a collective story. Remember the theme for Labyrinth, the overarching theme for Labyrinth, we're walking as one at one. We're bringing our stories together for global peace and healing, for making significant changes in our own lives and in the lives of the world. And what I'm going to talk specifically about tonight is walking the path of the labyrinth invites our feet and our hearts to be transformed through the 3 B's. All of these 3 B's are designed to help us create a sense of welcoming hospitality. I always love to think about the labyrinth as having this giant encircling embrace, this mystic hospitality that draws us together. It draws us together with the people who are walking now, who have walked, who will walk. And I think the 3 Bs give us a different little lens in which to view how we structure labyrinth walks for World Labyrinth Day in particular, but all kinds of labyrinth walks. So let's go on to the next slide, Scott. The first of the 3 Bs is the labyrinth allows all persons to be themselves. I love this quote, and then who were around the labyrinth, and they've got that tree of life, that tree, I call it the tree of life. Our life's journey is really about people who touch us. And this first of the 3 Bs tells us the labyrinth offers a safe and affirming space where all persons, regardless of race, religion, gender, ethnicity, culture, sexual orientation, physical abilities, may experience the healing and transforming power of its path to embrace their own unique story within a welcoming community. And let me say a little bit more about this particular slide. One of the things that I think is important as we develop labyrinth events is I come to my labyrinth work, I come to the times I walk the labyrinth with my own personal story. Where am I on life's journey, on my own particular life's journey? And then the people who are going to come to that walk, be it a World Labyrinth Day walk, be it a Women's New Moon walk, be it a walk for whatever reason we're doing a labyrinth walk, they're going to bring their story with them. And we want to be very conscious of what stories are they people bringing. So we want to create a welcoming atmosphere that all of the people coming to the walk can experience the labyrinth and their own story as it merges with the collective story that's being written in this event. And I think that may require us to shed our and how they choose to experience on the walk you are planning. This always goes back to what we always say is there's no right or wrong way to walk the labyrinth. There are some basic guidelines that we do to ensure that everybody is safe, is welcomed, and things go in a way that's orderly, but there's no right or wrong way. And so in practical terms, this first B cognitive limitations, etc. We can't assume that everybody is going to experience the labyrinth the way we do. So we have to be conscious of the variety of people who are going to be coming. Somebody who's a recent immigrant or who's a non-English speaker coming to our walk, if we're using words and concepts that they don't understand, or somebody, a gay or lesbian person may experience the labyrinth different than somebody else. Somebody who is 15 years old versus somebody who is 60. Somebody who is visually impaired, somebody who can't walk real well. All the different ways we are different. We need to ensure that that space welcomes everybody exactly where they are. And then the other thing we need to be aware of is the internal diversity, religion, spirituality, emotional, personal history, so be careful in our language is that we don't use language that privileges our own view of life, our own view of the world, but invites people to experience the labyrinth as the labyrinth wants to present itself to them. I love Helen Curry, who is one of our founding members, says, the labyrinth will always meet us where we are and take us where we as individuals want to go. But there's a kicker in that statement. And she says, but I don't think it's too much of a stretch, she says, that the labyrinth will take us or take the people on the walks we're planning where the labyrinth knows they need to go, where the labyrinth wants them to go. And I love that quote. And if you know those of you who know Helen, that's classic Helen Curry. Next slide, please. The labyrinth experience fosters a sense of belonging. And a lot of what Robin Dilley says, really speaks to this. We do this through mindful attention, cultural awareness, and sensitivity to the language, experience, yearnings of the persons who attend our walks. This is really saying what I said before slightly differently. But this is the important part. We strive to create formats, rituals to meet them where they are in this moment, allowing the labyrinth to take them where it will. It's if I'm dealing with a group of African Americans on a walk, I'm going to be sensitive to the images and feelings and some of the things that may be more unique to their way of viewing the world. Whereas if I'm dealing with a group of college students or a group of senior citizens, like I did a senior citizens walk last year with a group of 60 and 70-year-old women. So I structured the walk that was more on their physical terms, because some of them were elderly and had trouble walking. So I sort of massaged the way we did the walk. So we want to be careful that whatever we do fits the group of people that are there, and we try to include every. The labyrinth wants to help us build community, and I think that always talked about is I have to be very careful about religious language. I come from a faith tradition that has certain ways of talking. I come from the Jewish tradition, but I'm also very, very attuned to Christian language that sometimes creeps into our talking about the language. Maybe we talk about God, we talk about the divine. Not everybody believes in that. So we have to be careful that we create language and rituals that speak to all of us as human beings in our diversity. Finally, the third B is beloved community. This is the part, and I love the quote that is on this particular slide. Someone made a circle to keep me out. So I made a circle. So I made a bigger one to include us all. And I love that illustration of all the different skin colors, all the different ethnicities that are there. And one of the, just kind of an aside here, when I was at Rollins College, I did a lot of walks with our African American students. I did some with our Asian students. I did some with our Muslim students. And they taught me how to take the labyrinth and bring it into their community, into their way of viewing the world, and bringing them into the community of people who walk the labyrinth. Because we often make the assumption that the labyrinth is something that everybody should know about. And it is, but we have to put it in language and experience that speaks to people where they are. And that's often the tricky part. Walking the labyrinth path invites us into a community where our feet and hearts weave us together into a community dedicated to our shared welfare and benefit. When I plan Labyrinth walks, one of the things I always think about, what is that basic human element that I want the people to go away with? What are they bringing? What am I bringing? What are we going to do together? And it's about inviting people, be themselves, be part of a community where they feel like they belong. One of the things that I frequently did with the college students is I would design rituals where I remember one we did where I was working with a group of students who were struggling. And I had a group of colored stones in the middle of the labyrinth. And I said, as you go into the center, pick up a stone of something that you think you need to overcome the problem that you're struggling with. And one of the things I noticed when I did that with some of those students is they knew what they needed, and the labyrinth energy helped them do that. And in the sharing after the walk, they realized, oh, I had the wisdom to know what I needed to do. And I designed that so that the sacred energy of the labyrinth drew them into a community with the people around them to help them deal with the issues they were dealing with. That was a special themed walk, but that illustrates the point that the labyrinth brings us into that beloved community where the sacred energy of the labyrinth stitches us together across our differences into a common story where we can share and where we can benefit, where everybody is included, even if they are different than we are. Okay. And I want to end with a little prayer here that I wrote a couple of years ago. And then I don't know if there's time, if people have questions or we're moving on to that afterwards, Carmel. I don't remember.
We're
So
going to be moving on afterwards. We got about 1 more minute, Frank.
okay, that's fine. Thank you. I thought I was right on time. This is a prayer I often launch. O sacred portal, fingers trace a path you inscribe on my heart and embrace, wrapping me here in the arms of your twists and turns, holding me fast to carry me into our shared center. Here the petals of the rose unfurl their velvet fragrance, shimmering hues of red and gold rubbing against my face, moist now with our shared tears. Ears hear again my name whispered, beloved, a mouth fed with sweet manna from this moment, feet still warm from burrs and stones, traveled over to arrive here. Revel now in this quiet as stillness gently rings a tune. Cracked lips begin to hum its melody, like soothing wine with tasty words, this refrain of a single phrase. Welcome home, beloved. And I would just say as a refrain is the labyrinth is the place for all of us in our differences and our similarities where we are welcomed home as the divine beloved of that great sacred energy that draws us all together. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. That's a beautiful poem. And Frank, I want to ask, it's a stunning poem. If we give credit, can we use that in other places? It's just stunning. Are you okay?
That would be okay.
Yeah, the poem is
It's
just
copyrighted, but it's okay.
with permission. I'd love to see that just used other places. It's beautiful within our TLS work. It's stunning. Well, we are going to go ahead and enter into a little Q&A, but I had a couple specific questions that I did want to ask our panel before we open up to general Q&A. Okay, I'm looking at the time. We're at 6:48. If anyone has to bounce at 7 o'clock, please feel free to leave, but we're not going to rush this Q&A because it's important that we all get our questions answered tonight. So what I would like to do is just kick it off by asking Christiana Brinton. You know, Christiana, I've noticed through the years that you've observed and experienced what you call planning stages. So while you're organizing larger events, these planning stages have helped you stay organized. So can you just give us these planning stages tonight?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Carmel. Yeah, I mean, it's very much in conjunction with Robin Dilley's slideshow. The first stage is team building. However, it looks like, even if you feel like you're all by yourself, and we heard that in the earlier session today, people, well, it's just me, it's just me. But you'd have, if you've ever walked labyrinths enough, you got to know that you got to trust that energy. The labyrinth wants you to get out there and create a World Labyrinth Day event or any other kind of event. It will happen. And so you just try to get to people in your community, in your religious community, in your regional community. We started a Blue Ridge Labyrinth community here in Western North Carolina, because labyrinths, there are lots of them, but they're all spread out all over the place. So that helped us come together, create an idea, and consolidate how we were going to get the message out to all of these different areas in Western North Carolina. And so it's very different depending, each place is different. So the team, creating a team, at least 3 people, if not up to 7 people or so, and they have to be willing to work both with the 4 labyrinth organizations that are putting on the World Labyrinth Day, as well as the labyrinth communities that exist in the area. And that way it'll be a more effective event or events that happen. And then you have to determine the tasks. You know, you get a community together and you have to figure out, well, who does best? Who does this best? Who is a good person on the phone and can bring people together? Who is really a savvy techie, computer techie, and can morph all of the standard templates into something that's specific for your area, etc. So you have to get that all hashed out, and then assign, excuse me, assign, how you want to break this down, how you want to break the process of organizing, of making a World Labyrinth Day event or events happen, how it's going to work. And in my case, here in Western North Carolina, we decided we were just going to do it regionally, like in my little area of these couple of towns, all connected to Asheville, but all sort of separate. I was going to handle this, and the other person was going to handle this area, and Johanna Manassi was going to handle Weaverville and Western North. And so it just depends on your group, and it depends on your specifics. The next thing, the stage 2, is PR. How are you going to take this information that's readily available either for World Labyrinth Day or World Labyrinth Day in educational settings, and customize it to your situation, to committee that knows somebody. We had somebody here who was very familiar with their area and contacted someone at the Transylvania Times in Brevard, and they ran a 2-piece spread in their, and we're looking at other things this year to do. So you have to sort of plumb your committee and then see if your committee people know people in other committees or are part of other committees who might have entree. And the other thing is, you want to create the messages and materials. Frank was talking about this in terms of DEI, and that is important, but also just to think in terms of what it's like for people who don't know anything about labyrinths. So make sure when it's that you handle the information from a place of not knowing. People who've never walked before, what are they going to need? What are they going to need to want to come to your event? Like, are they going to be, don't want to be scared. They don't want to be, they just want to be able to have the information, like this, and this. and come from that place, not from a place of like, everybody walks Labyrinth, everybody knows and everything, because that's not true. And then, and the DEI, the inclusivity is really important. It will depend on the area. We live in a very mountainous area. It's hard to create. There aren't a lot of labyrinths that are automatically inclusive to hearing impaired and sight impaired people, people in wheelchairs. But is that there is that opportunity, and so you have to determine how to support those communities in producing World Labyrinth Day events. And then the day of, so you got this PR stuff, you're trying to get this out, and then the day of, you want to your committee, you want to make sure that your committee has opportunities for different types of Labyrinth events in your region. So if somebody wants to have an event that has someone playing the harp or playing the flute or guitar, then make sure that you support that. You find out somebody who's willing to do it. The other thing is marketing and budget, and that wasn't really discussed. But you have to decide if you're going to spend money handing out packets and sending packets out. Where's that money going to come from? Are you going to do it on your own printers and hand deliver it to your areas, or are you going to create a budget? And that's really that's a key thing, especially if you're very spread out like we are here. And then so the day of, and then hosting duties. Who's going to be there at the Labyrinth at 1 o'clock or for an hour and a half or so, and in each Labyrinth, who's going to do photography or videography, so that information can get back to the World Labyrinth Day people, so it can be included in the slideshow or video that happens after each one. So all of these things have to be coordinated. You also have to get this information to the communities that you're dealing with, so they know. I had to go into some of these places and show them on their computers this, where to put their information about what they were going to have in there, so they could be included in the counting of their World Labyrinth Day activity. And that's really important. Then the follow-up is really key too, to just make sure that what you've established and the connections you've created are acknowledged and supported. And so you want to get back to all of the places that you personally connected to, as well as your whole group's connected to, or just make sure that your members of your committee are acknowledged for their support, acknowledged for their participation and their work that they did. And in terms of the venues, what was the experience like? What did they think? Do they want to do it again next year? Do they want to be included? Do they want to do something bigger? So that you have something to go on in your committee for the following year, and that keeps like a snowball effect and will keep building. And so back, have a final Labyrinth meeting with your committee, to determine what worked and what didn't, and then what changes you're going to adopt for next year. I mean, the follow-up is really key, both with the committee and with the events that you did have. And we're going to have the Baptist Church is going to do another blowout event this year. So we want to encourage that in the communities, because that's how it gets spread, and that's how the PR gets bigger and bigger.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
Yeah. So those are my notes. There you go.
Well, thank you so much, Christiana. We appreciate those 4 stages. I just want to reiterate them again. Stage 1, team building. Stage 2, PR. Stage 3, the day of, and stage 4, follow-up. I just want to say real quick before I ask another question of the panel, the World Labyrinth Day Committee, we meet year round. The couple of weeks after World Labyrinth Day, we're back at it, planning on 2025. So yeah, that's what it takes. All right, so I have to just ask Katie to the microphone because we're going to be sharing some of the outstanding promotional pieces that her 2023 World Labyrinth Day Committee created and how they were used. So Katie, can you go ahead and briefly tell us how your committee put some of these promotional tools together?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm also kind of going to describe a situation in which we started small and it very quickly kind of grew. And you'll see. It started, it was, it was my personal project. I didn't have a labyrinth community. There weren't a lot of labyrinth communities around here because I was looking, but there were a lot of labyrinths that were built 90s maybe. And so generations move on and these labyrinths are still there. So there was a lot of re-acknowledging, reawakening of labyrinths, letting institutions know what they have. So I just started a personal blog going around the city, covering them all. And then during COVID, I run this parent group that I've been running for about 13 years. And we ran out of content because we meet once a week and we all of a sudden had to meet summers, holidays, spring break, everything, every week. And so finally one day I had never mentioned this to anyone. And I said, well, I do this thing. And they're like, what? And I said, walk labyrinths. And there were 30 something people there between the ages of 30 and 60. And no one knew what it was. And so that was my aha moment that I was holding back. I was holding it all back. That's what it felt like. So within what I had, I started a World Labyrinth Day Committee with people in my parent group because we ended up doing a lot of walks. They loved it. And a few of the people there went on the World Labyrinth Day Committee. And then we started doing public walks and finding more people that are interested in labyrinths to join our committee. And we set up structure with taking the labyrinth locator, went with a 25-mile radius of all the labyrinths in the area. There were about 43. Got all their addresses off the labyrinth locator, blasted emails out asking them if they'd like to participate in World Labyrinth Day. First year, we had one. We didn't really push it that much, to be honest, but we didn't know what we were doing. And we were really happy with the one site because it was very centrally located. That was a successful event. And so then last year was our second time. We knew a little bit more about what we were doing. And so we ended up having 10 sites. And then Scott, and we set up our social media. I converted the blog to a network, Labyrinths of Los Angeles Region and More Network, so that it belonged to everybody. And then a Instagram of all the sites that got back to us, what we were a support, telling them that we would provide them with some advertising. They could encourage them to do their own as well, but sometimes that's hard in these little institutions. So we made, I had a great team. I had a woman that was fabulous with Canva, and she made individual, and you can go to the next one, for each of the sites. And there were more than this. And then we put together one that was all of the walks in our area. And of course, that human nature, you put this out there and then you get 3, 4 going, I want to do it. And so it's wonderful because those people are jumping on this year too, to the publicity. This year, we're just starting with save the date going out on Instagram, trying to get it going. Let's see. Scott, what's the next slide? Do I have another one? Oh, and so through all this, energy is building, momentum is building. And someone from the LA Times reached out to me and she wanted to know about Labyrinths, this reporter, Deborah Netburn. Like, of course. So I took a couple of, the parents that worked with me, and we took them around to several labyrinths in the city, and they ran this on the front page as well as the back page. It was a twofold, not the entire, there were a couple other articles. And then they ran it again closer to World Labyrinth Day a couple of times. They kind of refigured it, and you can see that there on the right. And then from there, the school where my kids go, they reached out and said, can we do an article on you about, and I'm sure. And so it went in this really thick magazine that goes out 4 times a year. So sort of like what colleges do, to thousands, to the grandparents, to the alumni community, all through, in our area. And then I also reached out to the institutions that are at the top of the churches, communications for the churches. I worked on Capitol Hill, so I was very comfortable with this idea. And the Episcopal Church said yes. So they covered it. And we want to do more with this year. I know Carmel wants to do more too with the Methodist and the Presbyterian, and try to get those churches as a megaphone for all of their churches. So that was helpful. Is there anything you'd like me to cover that I haven't said?
No, but I think later on in the open Q&A, we could talk a little bit more about your promotional materials. So thank you, Katie, for that. Beautiful materials. I love the way you adapted them using what we have available on the worldlabyrinthday.org website. It is 7:05. If anyone has to leave, we thank you for coming, but we're going to continue our Q&A. And next up is Beth. Beth, one of the items that stands out for me is our forms and our written promotional items. I believe that they need to be written and crafted through the lens of DEI. How can our written materials convey inclusiveness?
I think being kind of new to this whole labyrinth thing, I've learned a lot over the last couple of years going to other walks. And one of the things I learned about myself was that I wasn't necessarily including everyone when I was thinking about having a walk. And while the World Labyrinth Day material is inclusive, and we have all these new, in other languages, the material is available. There's more than just that. And Frank touched on it quite a bit, but the idea that your audience, if you have folks coming. I live in an area that is largely winter visitors, a lot of elderly folks. So, I was usually the only person acting as a facilitator, and I learned very quickly, like, I need to have a person who's sitting in a room with paper labyrinths that they can do a finger walk on, or maybe bringing other types of finger walk materials for people to engage in, because a lot of folks just couldn't walk the labyrinth physically, or there would be people who wanted to walk the labyrinth, and I would encourage that if they didn't want to walk all the way back out because it seemed like a pretty far piece for them, they could easily walk over the labyrinth lines. There's no rules, there's no right or wrong way. You want to really open it to everyone who's coming and make it available to them. If people bring children, you might either want to kind of encourage them to include the children, or have things that the children can do on the side. If you have, foods available, you want to make sure they're well marked so that people with allergies don't feel like odd that they have to ask about everything. So I just feel like all those things need to be considered. Like, you are meeting people where they're at, as Frank mentioned, and I think we need to just raise our consciousness to make sure that everyone feels included.
Exactly, Beth. Thank you. And something that's a really easy thing to say on your flyers and promotional materials is, all physical abilities are welcome. No prior experience needed. Children of all ages are welcome. Free, or put a suggested donation. Mention if you have scholarships available, if you're doing a workshop or something like that. Student discounts. On our forms, you had mentioned allergies. sometimes if you're having food, you have to ask about allergies. You have to be very careful about scented candles and things like that. When you're holding a walk. Things like preferred names and pronouns nowadays on our forms are important. So I also think sharing mission statements and code of ethics and even welcoming statements on our collateral is I think important nowadays with our written communication, especially if we're seeing it through the eyes of DEI. So I would like to go ahead and open it up for some comments or questions from our friends and family here tonight. So if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. We also have several questions from the chat box. Maybe we could take them first. Susie, will you help us with that?
Sure. Let me just unmute. Okay, so Alicia, and I'm not sure where Alicia is from. She's not in camera right now, but she's on the second row there. She asks a general question. Do you usually have folks sign up to walk so that you know what to expect? And is it necessary to do something after the walk, or do you just let folks leave and process their own thoughts? So I know it's sort of depends upon the walk that's going on, but I thought maybe one of you could have a general answer for this.
I can
Christiana?
go ahead, Christiana.
Well, I'll just say we'll probably say the exact same thing, but World Labyrinth Day, its walk is one at 1 o'clock. So, you're going to want to invite people to be there by 12:30-ish so that you can then, and what we try to do is, people are coming from their lives. So they're kind of scattered. They're thinking about whatever's going on in the morning, whatever they have to do for the day. They managed to get a little bit of time here and they're going to walk this labyrinth. And it depends on the community too. For instance, the Baptist church here had a whole list of things that they were doing, and they had Stations of the Cross, and that was how it worked for them. That was what their community was used to. But if it's an open walk, Johanna, for instance, at her personal labyrinth, will have people come early. So if you have people arrive at 12:30, you can have a time of contemplation. You can have a time of quiet, a prayer, some kind of centering, and an intention read or something that will focus them to get on the labyrinth and be in that place of intention and peaceful walking. And then depending on if there's music, that helps also. And then at the end, people will walk it the way that they need to walk it at the time. So some people will walk all the way in, stay and walk all the way out. Some people will just need to walk in and go right directly out. And you can always plan on having something at the end for World Labyrinth Day, but you're going to have people coming and going and coming. If you have it, it's how you advertise it too. If you say it's going to be, you have this 2-hour period of time, and then this is where it's going to be ending this, that, and this amount of time, then that's when you end it, and you have a closing ceremony, a closing prayer, whatever. There is a way of walking around the other way 3 times around the labyrinth to close the labyrinth, if you wish to do that as well.
So Christiana, I agree with you. It really depends on the size of the group and the occasion of the group. I would say for World Labyrinth Day, I wouldn't ask for RSVPs or registration. I would just put it out there and just, expect hopefully 12 people to show up. If it's a facility where maybe you're having an indoor and you have to know how many people are coming because it's a small labyrinth and only 25 can fit at a time, then maybe you'd want to do a RSVP so you can see, how many people are coming. And I agree with the closing. You can very easily keep it open-ended, but I would announce that that when you're done walking, feel free, and maybe give them a list. Feel free to journal, feel free to sit, feel free to take a walk around the building, or, go sit in the grass or something, or direct them to the closing that you've planned. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just like we've been saying, you have to sort of customize it to the actual venue and event and the time that you've got laid out. So thank you, Christiana, for that. Susie, do we have any other questions from chat?
Right. Could I just mention that on World Labyrinth, on the website, when you enter your event, there is a place to mark whether they need to register or not. So you have the choice there. I would say most do not require registration, but there are some that do. I think we also would love it if the event could be for free. Now, if you're doing a workshop or something and or you need to cover the cost of a musician, that's okay if you want to have a love donation. But if at all possible, it'd be wonderful if this could be a free event to the community.
I do want to channel Robin a little bit from Arizona, because I think I want to say it doesn't have to be at 1 o'clock. I know that is the intention, but in Arizona in April, it can be, 100 degrees at 1 o'clock. So Robin opened it up for all of us to say, hey, if that doesn't work for you, have it at 9, have it at 10, have it at 6 a.m., make something special, but call it World Labyrinth Day, and just make sure people are aware they're walking, maybe at the same time as,
That's 1
Hawaii.
o'clock somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's hot out in the desert at 1
Yes.
o'clock, and if it's an outdoor, so excellent. That's problem solving. That's knowing, anticipating that so that's excellent. So anything else from the chat box, Susie?
Mostly comments, and I think there are people interested in a quick survey of the resources on worldlabyrinthday.org. They
Okay,
haven't
well,
had a
I can
chance to
show
click
that.
in.
But
And also, our friend Ed Gash says that he had a small labyrinth and a group came unexpectedly. And I get the sense that maybe it didn't work out the way he had planned because there were more people than he expected. So he thinks that groups, if you know that you're going to go as a group, that you should contact the location with at least a general number to give them a heads up. And I think that's a great comment. Thank you,
well,
Ed.
yeah. Again, he's thinking ahead. Thinking ahead what venue he's using and what have you. It's some of it's common sense. Would you guys like me to go ahead and screen share and show you a little bit what's on the worldlabyrinthday.org site? I can do that now, unless we have a question from the audience out here. Okay, screen share. I'm going to screen share. Okay, so I have this up. There's a couple places where I hang out a lot, and really it's in the PR. So you would go to the worldlabyrinthday.org site. You have to spell it all out. You would go under resources and down to PR materials, and in that section you'll see our logos that you can pick up. This is a sort of a menu of what's all on here. Press release, flyers, and what have you. This right here is a blurb that you can just copy right from this and put it into your collateral, whether it's electronic or printed. These are some printed materials for you. This is a flyer that's already, all the pretty stuff's put on there. All you have to do is put your dates and your details and use this. Right here is a whole press release. You can use it in its entirety, or just parts and pieces of it. We also, and you're going to be receiving this tips for organizing Labyrinth events. Much of what we spoke about tonight is all on here. We want to give a shout out to Christiana for helping us build this whole list. Golly, how to create an intention. This is the whole script that I did earlier today on the pre-World Labyrinth Day intention, which really can be used, pre-event or even on the day of the event. This is really nifty. I'm going to blow this up so you can see this. You can print these off and cut them into fourths. You know, this is the pre-Labyrinth Day intention. You can hand this out to your committee. Use this in any way, shape, or form you can. I know Scott Hensley has one where there is a finger labyrinth on it, so it becomes, you know, interactive a little bit. So I thought that was really cool. Let's see what else is on here. The whole PowerPoint that I went through at the top of our program tonight, here it is. You can use that again. This is something that we're very proud of. We've got 12, I think 10 listed here and 2 more coming of our World Labyrinth Day flyer, what it's all about. You know, that's this right here, and all these different languages and more to come. And if you can help us translate this into a language that you speak or know how to translate, please get with us. Get a hold of myself or get a hold of Ellen. We'll make it happen. Over here is just some different mugs and what we call swag that you can use perhaps, you know, as door prizes at your events or something like that. So this is jam-packed with the things that are already done for you. What you do is cut and paste. And then even going to the World Labyrinth Day events, pre-events, you can cut and paste all of this. I think the next one coming up is April, like I said at the top of the meeting. All of this is here for you. The history, if you want to get involved with a little bit of the history.
Carmel, can you go to the page that shows the events that we have about 15 events that are already listed?
So
Find,
you mean,
find and submit an event. Find and
yes, got
submit
it.
There you go.
Okay. So go
Um,
ahead, Ellen. What do you want to say about this?
So you click on that button if you want to submit your event. That's pretty intuitive. Just, yeah, okay. It's easy. It's just a Google Doc. You want to go back to where you were?
Oops, where was I? Hold on.
Okay,
Give me a minute.
okay.
Just
Oh,
go to the new tab where it says new tab. Oh, I was wrong.
no, it's not that. Hold on. That's the Austrian one. I must have lost it. Hold
Use
on.
the arrow to go back.
Yeah,
No?
the back
Trying,
arrow.
it's not letting me go back. I
Well,
must have.
that's okay. That's just the page where you're going to scroll down and wherever you are, you click on
Here it
that
is.
page.
I have to go back here. Here you
Okay.
go.
Okay, so if you can just scroll down, you can see all the places that are filled in blue already have events listed. And when the other ones pop up, something pops up in another area, it will turn blue too. As I said before, we had events last year on 6 continents, and I'm trying to get that 7th continent, Antarctica. If anybody can help me with that, I would appreciate it.
I think we should get Scott on that. He knows people up there.
Right.
Anyway,
Um,
talk
and-
about the photo and the
Yep.
participation.
That's
survey.
also a Google Doc where you can attach a photo. The participation survey that Carmel was talking about before.
So important.
Yeah, so we've tried to make it as easy and inclusive as possible for you.
Yeah, this community calendar page, you know, is, you know, found under find and submit events. This is where all that follow-up work that's so, you know, critical to success on the next event is all found here. And we appreciate you filling that all out for us.